Okay, in this video I'm going to try to demonstrate to you what your research document should look like. What should I put in my research document, how to use the research tool, how to create notes that are in my own words, and how to document those. In the end, I will probably show you a finished product that I have been working on for the last period of time that you guys have been working on your project as well. First of all, notice that I have my title, Research Project Gemini. The first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and put a number 1. This will be my first source, and I'll skip over. Then I'll go over to Tools and click on Research. With this tool, you will use it simply as a Google search bar. You can type in anything that you would like. That's under the everything. Okay, so I'm going to type in Project Gemini. Okay, and when I go there, remember we don't use Wikipedia except for to find other sources. So we're going to scroll down and we're going to find Project Gemini NASA. Okay, let's preview that and see if we like that source. Looks like it would have quite a bit of information on it. So I'll go ahead and I'll click on the arrow to get rid of my preview and click on Insert Link. I'll simply push Enter, Tab, put an asterisk, and then go to my resource. In this resource, I'll begin to read. I found a paragraph here that I like that seems to give me quite a bit of information. So I will click on this and copy and paste the information. On your Chromebook, you will highlight it and you can press copy, or you can press Control C and then go back to your research project and push Control V. Sometimes you have a little bit of trouble getting back in. Now, Control V. There we go. Alright, so now we have the information that I thought would be helpful. So I'll go to the end of my paragraph and I will click Cite. If I scroll down to the bottom of my research, here is my documentation or citation or bibliographical information cited at the bottom of my research document. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to come through here and I need to look at this paragraph and I need to decide what information would be helpful for me for my paper. I'll read the information and then create some sentences in my own words. In order to do that, I'm going to move my research section so I can read my whole document. If you want to leave it up, that's fine. Some of the students have chosen to do all their research first, find all the things that they think are helpful, and then go back and write their sentences. It may be helpful for you to write your sentences as you do your research. This particular paragraph tells me who some of the when the Gemini program began, and so I want to take these statements and put them together to create a sentence. November the 11th, 2006 marked the 40th anniversary of the launch of the Gemini 12, the final mission in the groundbreaking program that bridged the gap between Mercury and Apollo. When Jim Lovell and Buzz Aldrin landed 4 days later, NASA had learned valuable lessons about living and working in space that paved the way for the first trips to the moon. On May 25, 1961, 3 weeks after Mercury astronaut Alan Shepard became the first American in space, President John F. Kennedy announced the goal of sending astronauts to the moon before the end of the decade. So I might take that information. One of the major things that I see is the word bridged. It appears that the Gemini program was very important for connecting what was done during the Mercury project to what would be done in the Apollo project. So I like those words and that word, and I want to try to put that into my own words to create interest in my paper. So let me get back into my document. Okay, I'm going to start with the Gemini program was a bridge between the Mercury program that placed a man, an American, in orbit to the ultimate goal of landing a man on the moon that was achieved by Project Apollo. Okay, and I could highlight that. I'll go up to text color, and if you use the down menu, you'll slide over to highlight, and then you'll color it. And that tells you that those were your own words. Now let's read that back. The Gemini program was a bridge between the Mercury, I left something out, that's why we read it back to ourselves, the Mercury project that placed an American in orbit to the ultimate goal of landing a man on the moon that was achieved by Project Apollo. Okay. Now let's look at the next section. It says on May 25th, 1961, 3 weeks after Mercury astronaut Alan Shepard became the first American in space, President John F. Kennedy announced the goal of sending astronauts to the moon before the end of the decade. Okay, so how can we put that into our own words? We could say, soon after Alan Shepard became the first American to orbit Earth, President Kennedy shared with the nation the challenge of sending now let's change it, of getting an American to land on the moon. Okay, now let's see. Soon after Alan Shepard became the first American to orbit Earth, President Kennedy shared with the nation the challenge of getting an American to the moon. Okay. So I've created two sentences that are my own words. And the thing about it is you can write these sentences, and if you don't like the sentences, then you can go back and change them later. But you know that you have read the information up here that was not your own, and then you've created your own sentences. So if I go on to create, to find another source, I would make sure that I turn off my highlighting. So I go to highlight and I click none. And then I'd go down and I would click number 2. I go back to my research tool. And then I would find another source. This looks interesting. So I'll preview my source. Wow, this is all about the Gemini project. So it looks like it would be a pretty good source. I'll click my preview out of the way. Then I'll click insert link. So there's my source. I'll push enter, tab, only once. If you hold down on it, it'll go too far. So you click Shift and the 8 key to get your asterisk. Then I'll go to my source and let's see what I can find out. Gemini goals, that sounds important. Let's look at that. Okay, the second U.S. manned space program was announced January 1962. It was a 2-man crew, gave its name Gemini for the third constellation of the zodiac and its twin stars Castor and Pollux. Wow, that looks like good information. Tells me how many flights, tells me the goals. So I think this will be good information for me to use. So I'm going to copy this. Remember, you can also use Control-C on your Chromebook. Control-C, and then go back to your research project and Control-V. Again, sometimes it's hard to get it back in there. So I'll click on it, Control-V. Okay, there's my information. Okay, now that's pretty spread out. So let's see if I can manipulate this so it fits in my document better. So I'm going to highlight it and I'm going to format. And let's go to line spacing. Let's make it single spaced. Much better. And let's see if we can get rid of this. So we're going to click backspace. And let's see if we can make this to the side. Let's see, more, and we'll click on left. There. And that moves that over so it's out of the way. Then I'll go over here, back to my source, and I'll click on Cite. So I'll scroll down to the bottom of my page, and there's my second source. Okay, now let's see if we can find some sentences we can write here. Let's see. You know what? I don't think this is single space, so let's see if we can make that single space. It is single space. Remove space before paragraph. There we go. Now, that way it won't take up as much room. Okay, let's look. The second U.S. manned space program was announced January 1962. It was a 2-man crew, gave its name Gemini. Okay, let's do something with the goals. Okay, to subject man and equipment to space flight up to 2 weeks in duration. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. I want the bullets off. Okay. The goals of Project Gemini were to first expose astronauts to long space voyages, flights. Okay. Second, okay, the second goal to dock with other space vehicles get rid of my research tool.